the Palace of Speed. Early on in this race.
Round 10 of the Spec-5 World Tour is live here on HJBC as the World Tour goes to a new world track. It's Misano World Circuit, Marco Simoncelli. And it is pretty new to the iRacing service, well loved by people on two wheels. Definitely has its fair share of fans on four wheels as well. Spec-5 World Tour comes here for round 10 and a 45-minute race. And by the Adriatic, in the middle of Italy, the weather is beautiful today, if not a little on the warm side. We go into qualifying that will set the grid for the 45-minute championship race. And we'll see how the tyres hold up on this circuit in these conditions. Along with that temperature though, not too much wind in the sky right now. If you've got a driver or a team you're trying to follow along with, then HJBC.live has the live timing to watch the youngest driver in the field, Andrew Gilliland, make his way out of the long pit lane here at Misano, and that pit exit speed limit goes a long way down the pit out as well. And out onto the track he goes. This circuit relatively recently refurbished in the last 10 years or so, adding new curbs, new painted runoff, slightly reconfiguring the layout. For the longest time, this used to be an anti-clockwise circuit, and then they changed it to a clockwise circuit for reasons that I haven't been able to find written down in a Wikipedia article. It is a 15-minute qualifying session with each driver getting 4 flying laps. And they're, of course, all on their out laps at the moment. This is Ronnie Coates, and he is the championship leader. And that's denoted on the graphics by the red car number as well. The open class points leader denoted by a blue car number. We can keep across that in today's racing. And then, of course, the series supporters making the league and the broadcast possible in gold, silver and bronze, and all of the perks for the league members that come along with that, including gold supporter who chose this circuit and maybe isn't here. I think Andrew Gilliland is just getting into his first flying lap right now. He was one of the first out of pit lane. iRacing reporting just the 3 sectors from Misano World Circuit Marco Simoncelli. And Ronnie Coates is the fastest through the first one for the first flying lap. Ahead of Brian Spalski, then ahead of Sean Hayes. And no Andrew Gilliland in between there. A couple of tenths off Ronnie's first sector effort. It's a bit twisty and slow through the very first part. And then you have these wide hairpins and some long straights that connect them through the middle and back half of the circuit. So Ronnie Coates really stretches the legs here. It's a fast right kink where Formula E decided to install a chicane. And then tightening through this section. So there's a nothing corner and then a little bit of a corner and then into this hairpin right. Ronnie Coates slides it just a little bit and then gets to the right-hand side of the circuit for the left direction, change of direction, pit entry. Much shorter than pit exit, and it's a 90-degree left-hander to close out the lap. Ronnie Coates just trying to mind his track limits there, as he'll be one of the first drivers out of the final corner, crossing the start-finish line and putting a lap time to the board. He's got a 1:53.4 ahead of Sean Hayes, ahead of Andrew Gilliland. It is just the first of 4 qualifying laps for the drivers though. Normally, tyre temperature and speed building as the session goes on. We're already starting on quite a hot track. And we'll see exactly how this pavement responds to that temperature. Maybe they peak a little earlier. Just 3 drivers with qualifying times at the moment, but there's a few other drivers sort of about to come towards the completion of their first lap. Orlando Herald, Camden Hibbett, to name a few. And here comes Camden Hibbett. So you do have that right-hander. You want to get all the way to the other side of the circuit. I think he doesn't quite, but I suspect you still keep it flat through there. Sharp little corner. And then 90-degree left-hander. Don't want to get spat out too wide on the exit. Camden Hibbett had a couple of purple sectors there, so his first lap sends him to the top, eclipsing Ronnie Coates by just a couple of tenths. Ronnie Coates is further ahead on the run plan, so he's quite the way through his second lap and entering the final sector at the moment. And in no surprise, it's tracking for improvements as he hits the final corner. Lap times underneath 2 minutes for these Mazda MX-5s. Ronnie Coates about to finish his second lap, going from a 153.4 to a 153 flat. But don't think he nailed the final sector. He was up through sectors 1 and 2, Not sure he completed the lap quite how he meant to. Andrew Gilliland is the best placed open class driver. There's 2 divisions in Spec-5 World Tour, Pro and Open. Generally speaking, most drivers enter the league in Open, and then maybe there'll be reasons seen to promote them to Pro. Kirill Bondar's gone to second with his most recent time, and lap number 2 is not tracking as an improvement for Bondar. Oh, yeah, that won't help. Bit of a spin there. Sun's back out, track temperature climbing. Andrew Gilliland's also gone for a spin, so it looks slippery on the rear tyres for everyone at the moment. Watching Brian Chabowski, another driver without a time in qualifying just yet. And that's where the other drivers have had their spins too. I'm pretty sure that's where Gilliland looped it around, where we've seen Otis Adams just have a halfway slide there, and not the quick way to do it either. Michael Coates has looked a chance of improving, and his most recent lap has taken him to 4th, while the 3rd flying lap for drivers like Ronnie Coates and others has seen no improvement at all through none of his sectors. Camden Hibbett also a little bit down on this lap compared to his best, and so the tyres have seen their best potentially. Normally laps 3 and 4 are the places that the pole time could be set, but for Ronnie Coates, Camden Hibbett, Sean Hayes, Michael Coates and Andrew Gilliland, the top 5, the improvement has stalled as we've gone on. The combination of this style of pavement with the temperature, clean lap will be required for Kirill Bondar or Geordie Fike, 2 drivers without qualifying times just yet. There's Bondar and there's Coimbra. Early-ish in the lap. Early in the lap there for Camden Hibbett, who's gone to the top on his most recent lap, and all of it by pulling out a massive middle sector. So just there, the white line across the track is the end of the 1st sector. He's now into the middle sector. Lost 3/10 through the 1st. Bondar's in the final sector. Still yet to log a clean lap time. And trying now through the final corner. Onto the front straight. Bondar. Time takes him to 8th place. 1.2 seconds away from pole. Rui Coimbra looks to be done with qualifying. Orlando Herald, one of the other open class drivers, along with Alex Harrison and Andrew Gilliland, crosses the line. And his lap puts him 6/10 ahead of Alex Harrison. Now, also heading towards the final corner. For the final lap of qualifying for Alex Harrison, by the look of things. Where are we at for Alex Harrison? Is this it, or is there one more? Looks like that's it for Alex Harrison. Final lap time was an improvement that took him closer, but didn't put him ahead of Orlando Herald. So Camden Hibbett's done. Ronnie Coates looks to be done. Michael Coates improves to third place there. What could be his final lap? Ray Lombardi will be one of the last cars in qualifying on his fourth lap right now. And this white line here, that's the end of the first sector. He is level with his best first sector of qualifying from any lap of qualifying so far. So he might think he still stands a chance. This is the onboard. Oh, got the cranes. What are they building? Tidy so far, which is important. Should be flat out here. That looks very flat out to me. But then it begins to tighten and tighten and tighten here. So that's a nothing corner. This is a bit of a corner and it leads you into a real corner just about here. And then left-handers to finish out the lap at Misano. And to finish out qualifying for Ray Lombardi on his final lap. Currently in 6th place. Again, it's been a tidy enough lap. And he goes straight line to the end of the lap. Improves just a couple of tenths, but leaves him still sitting in 6th. Michael Coates and Geordie Fike, the only other cars out on the racetrack at the moment in the dying minute. Qualifying for Spec-5 World Tour from Misano World Circuit. Geordie Fike's the only driver without a qualifying time. And I don't think he's going to get one having just got out onto track now. So that's everyone off track, and it locks in the qualifying order of Camden Hibbett, Ronnie Coates, championship leader, Michael Coates, Sean Hayes, Andrew Gilliland, best qualifying open class driver, can count as a pole position of sorts, then Ray Lombardi, Otis Adams, Kirill Bondar, Rui Coimbra, Brian Jabelski, Orlando Herald still holding the class lead there in open class with his consistent finishes in 11th, and then Alex Harrison 12th. From the qualifying, Geordie Fike we saw was laid out onto the circuit, set no qualifying time. I'm off in pursuit of some championship standings because there's no way that open class isn't super close. Ronnie Coates, though, in pro class has been so consistent that round by round he's just chipped away at it, scored some race wins, always looks to finish inside of the top 5, inside of the top 3. Field all now to grid up on the start finish line. Behind today we have a Porsche 911 GT3 safety car for the full formation lap, and I find the season points spreadsheet in my hands. And Orlando Herald's consistency has him with the most points in open class, not factoring in any drop rounds. But as we get towards the end of the championship, Andrew Gilliland's had a couple of big scoring results and then missed out a couple of times as well. So at one worst result dropped, Orlando Herald still leads but at 2 worst results dropped is the crossover point where Andrew Gilliland would be open class leader, and it typifies the seasons that we've seen from both. Some really, really big results from Andrew Gilliland, but always here, always on the grid, always finishing out the races. Orlando Herald and some circuits and some strategies have worked well for him. There goes our safety car with the field in tow. And the track temperature really hasn't budged all too much from the end of practice, from the start of qualifying to now, sitting there at 102 Fahrenheit, 39 Celsius. Sun's come back out, but there's just a little bit of cloud around. Pace car speed here, 50 miles an hour. Pit lane speed, 37. Pit exit shortcuts, turns 1, 2, 3, but you get held at that pit lane speed a long way through the exit. Another bit of the circuit back there that Formula E saw fit to modify when they came here. Outside of that, I think you've got to be a big GT racing fan to have seen a whole lot of four-wheeled action around Misano World Circuit Marco Simoncelli. Looking at this year's calendar of track action for Misano Circuit. So, Italian Motorbike Championship was here, Formula E was here, FIM Junior GP last weekend. That looks like Italian TCR coming up. That looks like the pace car pulling in. Fanatec GT World Challenge coming here in May. Will be one of their big race weekends. 45 minutes of racing to come in Spec-5 World Tour as the green flag waves quite early in the start-finish straight. Might have caught out your pole sitter by just a little bit as they head down towards turn 1. Camden Hibbett will still lead from Ronnie Coates, who gets back to the inside of turn 2, then will be on the outside for turn 3. Good sequence of corners then, as your leaders still go side by side. Michael Coates sitting in there in third alongside Andrew Gilliland, who looks to get down the inside of the tight hairpin. Placement on the track, so key with the sharp corners. Ronnie Coates showing that as he slots back to the inside, having gone around the outside of the previous corner, and the battle up front continues to rage on. Michael Coates has a good run at the both of them. Andrew Gilliland still looking for some big scores, is part of that top 4, with Otis Adams just behind, able to pick and choose his lines as they're side by side in front of him, now beginning to sort out. Gilliland gets down the inside of Coates there into the third position outright. And you see Otis Adams then all over the bumper of Michael Coates likewise. Your leaders side by side again on this opening lap as Camden Hibbett and Ronnie Coates have traded the lead one corner into the next at Misano. For the sequence of right-handers to come though, Ronnie Coates has the high ground. Andrew Gilliland senses an opportunity to try to get down the inside for second here if he can. Good to see in your mirrors if you're Ronnie Coates. This is the most substantial lead anyone has had to this point of the race, with just a couple of car lengths over second and third now. Ray Lombardi looks like he's trying to have a go at Otis Adams there. They're the next group of cars side by side. Ray Lombardi ahead as Otis Adams slots in behind. Biggest loser off the first lap of racing has been Sean Hayes, who's gone from fourth back into eighth. There's Ray Lombardi, Otis Adams, Kirill Bonda, and Andrew Gilliland even have gotten past him on the opening lap. This is the point of the field with Ronnie Coates leading the championship, leading the race. Andrew Gilliland, if he gets to every race in the remainder of the season, he'll find himself in the open class lead. Not just yet. From a few of the races he's either missed or DNF'd against Orlando Herald's consistency. Oh no. Oh no. I've literally done it. Orlando Herald has spun off and towards the wall. So he was second in class. It's off this left-hander, perhaps. Bounce of the apex curb, and around he's gone and deposited a front bumper as tribute against the wall. Sees him away from this train that continues to run up front, encompassing the top 12. Camden Hibbett back down the inside of Andrew Gilliland. Potential for a switchback there through those corners the way they work. Ray Lombardi picking up time and a few places. So he's gotten past Sean Hayes and gotten past Otis Adams. So he's in the middle of this with that next group. Behind him, forming the bridge at the moment between the top four and the next four. Orlando Herald's the first car to see the pit lane at Misano, as he goes in search of his pit box and a new front bumper. For the lead, Camden Hibbett's going to have a look down the inside of Ronnie Coates. Coates will try to find a bit of grip around the outside, and they'll continue to battle for the race lead, much to the delight, I'm sure, of everyone else behind. So it lets Gilliland get a bit closer. It lets Michael Coates get a little bit closer. And he'll have another go for it. Side by side through the nothing right-hander. Through the appetizer right-hander. And then into the hairpin. It's Hibbett back to the front. Final corner, Ronnie Coates runs a bit wide. A few of them do. There's a handful of drivers who haven't set a clean lap to this point in the race, with 3 completed. Gilliland, one of them. Kirill Bondar, one of them. And then the battle between Alex Harrison and Geordie Fike. Neither of those guys have set a clean lap back here either. Oh, no, they did on that lap just then. But Gilliland and Bondar still haven't after 3. It took the 3rd attempt for Harrison and Fike. Race lead still pretty inseparable, as Camden Hibbett's lead is just 3 tenths over Ronnie Coates. And Andrew Gilliland and Michael Coates follow on. Different lines into the hairpin there, and a wiggle on the exit for Camden Hibbett. Track still hot. Tyres beginning to wear out a little bit, like we saw in qualifying. I would have normally seen way more green and purple sectors lap 3 and lap 4 of qualifying, but we didn't have that here. Drivers really begun to wear out the tyres quite quickly. We're seeing that again now in the racing conditions. Perhaps this is one of the circuits where the drivers at their pit stop will want to take new tyres. Side by side here as Ronnie Coates looks to strike back to the inside of this ever continuing series of right-hand corners. Not quite the opening sector of Shanghai, and it brings the whole rest of the field in here. Ray Lombardi has never been closer to the lead except for when he had it at Road Atlanta. He's side by side for 4th place there with Michael Coates. As we go into the final corner, your top 3 have gotten back in line. They'll just squeak back in line, the drivers behind. Michael Coates' advantage over Ray Lombardi, who's got Otis Adams almost invisible in behind him there. Side by side for the leaders in towards turn 1, the right-hander immediately into the left-hand turn 2 before a long right-hand turn 3. Hibbett's trying to switch back, trying to get his nose back down to the inside. Ronnie Coates has proved he can hold around the outside of this corner to get to the inside of the next. Bondar's had a big dive in and absolutely pelted Michael Coates off. A few other drivers have to leave the circuit, and it's come from Kirill Bondar, I think, missing his braking zone massively. And in his battle there with Rory Coimbra, he hits someone 3 cars ahead. He's come barreling in there, way too hot. We've got a big hit to the rear of Michael Coates, who might have some damage, and was running 4th. So your top 3 scamper away as the pack gets skittled behind. Sean Hayes sneaks back into 4th place where he qualified, having sat in 8th for a little bit. And then Rory Coimbra sneaks through to 5th. He picks up a big bunch of positions there as Coates, Lombardi, Adams, Kirill Bondar all lose a big chunk of time to that. You can see damage for a few of those cars in a few places. In front of Lombardi, on the left-hand side for Michael Coates. They seem to be racing on though. Up front, it's tireless between Ronnie Coates and Camden Hibbett. And Andrew Gilliland, now having broken away from the rest of the pack, maybe sees fit to just ride in 3rd place with the leaders. That would be a big points payday for an open class driver where he sits at the moment, and it is a great opportunity. Left-handed just at the beginning of sector 2, looking like one of the corners that it's flat out if you're on the right line. We saw Orlando Herald wasn't. I'm seeing a few other drivers get the line just a little bit wrong and have a slide through there. And the lap times are dropping away just a little bit as we go as well. Camden Hibbett leading Ronnie Coates and Gilliland, and you can see that next group behind. The fastest lap of the race is a 1:53 flat by Ronnie Coates, but his last lap was a 1:54.5. Sorry, 1:54.7. So they're missing about a second a lap to their best, and it seems to be the rear grip through the long corners and the traction out of those corners fastest way is not side by side either, as Hibbert's down the inside of Coates. Again, round the outside, getting traction and trying to hold his ground. Ronnie Coates holds a race lead. Six laps completed in the pit window, shortly to open. Orlando Herald, the only driver who's seen pit lane yet, and that's because he went nose first into the wall, had a big chunk of damage that he needed to fix. Everyone else is pondering their pit strategy at the moment. Am I losing time in the pack? Am I gaining time in the pack? Where will I go if I pit? The big questions that keep us up at night. Loneliest man on track, Orlando Herald. Second loneliest man, Sean Hayes. You've got 3 cars for the lead that Sean Hayes can just kind of see. And then a big group that Rui Coimbra's gotten to the front of. Behind him, Coimbra just slightly anonymous through a couple of the opening laps. Saving fuel is a strategy very often employed in the Spec-5 World Tour. It is saving the tyres a little bit through the opening stint and then through the second stint. Maybe a way to go in these temperatures on this circuit. Certainly lots of sort of medium high speed sections where you're just turning and turning and turning. So like through here, just always lateral load through the car. Same for the first sector. Middle sector, a little bit more just running in a straight line, but once you're done turning right, then you're turning left, and then you're turning left, and you're about to turn left again. A lot of time with the car loaded up through, it's definitely some sort of European style corners, and potentially some abrasive pavement in some hot temperatures. They're wearing through the tyres, and quickly Ronnie Coates, Camden Hibbert, Andrew Gilliland as your top 3 here still. Sean Hayes catching them just a tiny bit on the last lap, mainly owing to the side-by-side battling that Ronnie Coates and Camden Hibbert did. For Andrew Gilliland, this is an opportunity that you cannot turn down. Open class driver in the top 3 with a little bit of a breakaway, a chance at a very solid points payday. But the top 3, the way that they're battling, as you see once again, not letting them stretch too far away from Sean Hayes or the second pack where they've been a bit more in line following Rui Coimbra. Right as I say that though, they'll decide to get it side by side onto the back straight. How about flat out side by side through here? Yeah, no worries at all. There. It starts to become more of a question about here. Slide on the exit for a few. Coimbra runs very wide. Top 3 out the final corner. And another lap completed in the mid 154s. And that's exactly what Sean Hayes does that lap as well in 4th. Michael Coates now up front in the next group for 5th. As Coimbra ran wide late on in the last lap. And now coming under a little more pressure. Brian Tabelski hanging at the tail of this group has broken free from Alex Harrison and Geordie Fike and is going along with the next group of cars, so he didn't get Stuck back there with those next two drivers. High average speeds at Misano, meaning that the slipstream effect comes in pretty powerfully, pretty early into a lot of these straights, and Camden Hibbett goes to the lead. It has swapped and swapped and swapped a couple of times. May do again. Rear tyres having a wiggle in the traction zone for both. So it's really a tale of two packs at the moment in Spec-5 World Tour from Misano. The three cars for the race lead, and then this next group here with Michael Coates through to Brian Chabelski. HJBC.live has live timing if you want to check it out. Plenty of detailed information about the race at hand. The fact that the fastest lap of the race currently belongs to Rui Coimbra, the 154.006. Again, they can't help themselves but battle it out front. As much as Ronnie Coates maybe thinks about getting in line, it's not happening. So he's down the inside there. And how is his traction onto the back straight that's got just a bit of banana shape to it? Two absolutely flat out right kinks before they start tightening up into the hairpin complex. Flat out, flat out. And now you see brake lights on, brake lights off, brake lights back on again for the top three: Ronnie Coates, Camden Hibbett, Andrew Gilliland, as they run at the moment, not letting Sean Hayes get too much closer. What was a 4-second gap from the race lead to Sean Hayes came down to 3.5, where it sat for really the last 4 or 5 laps. And a dive down the inside of one from Camden Hibbett, getting all the way clear. He can take whatever racing line he fancies, but so can Ronnie Coates. And as Hibbett runs out wide, Coates carries way more speed around the outside of turn 3. And Andrew Gilliland has a bit of a look down to the inside, so 3 wide for the race lead. Andrew Gilliland picks it as his opportunity to go out front ahead of Camden Hibbett. Ronnie Coates shuffled back to 3rd, and that does let Sean Hayes get closer. He's pulled a second out of them through that opening sector based on Camden Hibbett barreling down the inside of turn 1, too hot, overshooting turn 2, checking them all up. Michael Coates has almost broken away from the front of that next group into 5th place as well, despite the damage that he visibly has on the front of the car there at the moment. And the teammates of Otis Adams and Rui Coimbra, the next 2 behind. Camden Hibbett makes Andrew Gilliland's race lead short-lived as he's back out front, and Andrew Gilliland looks to make Camden Hibbett's lead short-lived about now as he gets his nose in front before the right kink. Ronnie Coates decides, who am I going to follow or try to pass? And he gets his red, not a team car, way up the inside of the sequence of right-handers. All good news for Sean Hayes, who's only half a second away from beginning to pick up a little bit of a toe off the race leaders. Through the final corner they go, still with no one except Orlando Herald pitting. Now Ray Lombardi does. Oh, but there's contact between second and third. Ronnie Coates is spun around and then straightened up by Camden Hibbert. Andrew Gilliland leads by 2 seconds as Sean Hayes sneaks through to second. We'll take a look at it. Again, it's through the opening part of the lap here, through this switchback sequence. A bit of a slide, a bit of a checkup, and then Coates comes back across the nose of Camden Hibbert, I think, having seen it for the second time. I think Hibbert really dives it in there. I think Coates has a slide off of turn 2, loses his momentum, and then when he goes to turn the other way into 3, Camden Hibbert was going there. So Ray Lombardi stops, Andrew Gilliland leads, Sean Hayes and everyone else gets a little bit closer to the race lead. Michael Coates is still just looming back there. It looks like Camden Hibbert pushing Sean Hayes as well, the most ferocious bump drafting I've seen yet. Otis Adams closing Coates. This is up front. Seconds for Ray Lombardi. I didn't see what he did tyres wise. There could be an argument for left sides. I think he's driving like he's just taken new tyres, if I'm honest. Brian Spelsky's in. And those are definitely looking like a lot of motorcycle garages here. There he is just before the timing line. Only looking like fuel for Zabelski right now. For Geordie Fike, it's looking like it could be all 4. Oh yeah, no it is. Right sides, left sides. Let's see what Fike can do in this final part of the lap, final part of the race. So 23 seconds compared to 18 for everyone else. But Fike has 4 brand new tyres as he negotiates the pit exit. Andrew Gilliland leads the race from Camden Hibbert, Sean Hayes and Ronnie Coates as your top 4. Michael Coates has been caught by Otis Adams, who now leads the group in 5th. Barely, I might add. So now with a couple of pit callers, we might get a few more. From the leading group we won't, as Andrew Gilliland still leads them, but his lead has been eroded by the pursuing drivers. Michael Coates hits pit lane. It's followed by Kirill Bondar. It's definitely the sort of circuit and the sort of conditions where you've got to keep an eye on who's doing what in the pit stops, because we know Geordie Fike took 4 brand new tyres. There's no sign of new tyres going on for Michael Coates or Kirill Bondar. There's no accounting for what Alex Harrison might do. Doesn't look like anything for Harrison. Coates is out of here. Kirill Bondar's about to be out of here. And it's still 37 miles an hour, 60 kilometers an hour, all the way down that pit exit for a long, long way. And there goes Harrison after 23 seconds. So that's similar to the 23 for Geordie Fike, where he took 4 tyres and it looked like he was limited by the tyre change rather than the fuel time. Sean Hayes has lost a bit of time to the top three, which is now, again, Camden Hibbett, Andrew Gilliland and Ronnie Coates. Gilliland keeping a tight left-hand line as he makes the beeline to the pit entry. So does Camden Hibbett. Ronnie Coates stays out. Sean Hayes is in. Rui Coimbra too, so pit lane's a busy place right now with 18 minutes left to go in Spec-5 World Tour from Misano World Circuit. Left out on his lonesome Ronnie Coates. Otis Adams also out there. Everyone else has either stopped or is on pit lane. As we look down pit lane, I'm seeing cars, all four tyres on the ground. And the first I'm seeing away is Andrew Gilliland. And he approaches Camden Hibbett's stall. And they are side by side through a narrow pit exit, but Gilliland is just going to blend in ahead. Nice medical helicopter. Airbus helicopters H125, and they're going to end up in behind Michael Coates. Long stop for Rui Coimbra, probably speeding on pit lane, so that's sending him all the way to the back of the field. In a pit stop that has now reached a minute before he even takes the pit exit. Orlando Harrell, Alex Harrison, Geordie Fike all end up ahead of him as he goes to the very, very tail of the field. Fike and Harrison, the battle is back on. And these are some drivers whose lap times are going to be interesting to watch, knowing that Fike took 4 brand new tyres. Is there a couple of seconds to be gained out of them? He's ahead the minute. Here's Ronnie Coates pitting from the race lead. Otis Adams is staying out and will lead the race for just a second now. Ronnie Coates in his stall, and I'm definitely seeing left sides from the race leader. It went up just for a second. If he maybe took one tyre or something. Big questions about what to do on the tyre strategy here at Misano on what started out as a very hot day on a rather abrasive surface and layout. Here comes the rest of the field, which is Camden Hibbett, Michael Coates and Andrew Gilliland. Turns 1 and 2, Ronnie Coates begins to accelerate around the outside of 3 and rejoins ahead, but with a little imbalance in his tyre temperatures potentially for some corners or a lap. Otis Adams is the only driver yet to stop. We're going to need to see Orlando Harrell again after his lap 2 pit stop. He's going to need to fuel again. A very long running strategy from Otis Adams there means that when he stops, he's going to cede the race lead to Ronnie Coates, who's leaving a little bit, but definitely not going to be able to break the toe to Camden Hibbett, Michael Coates, Andrew Gilliland, who have all the incentive in the world to do just a little bit of bump drafting to close that gap down and give us a 4-way fight for the lead in the final 14 minutes of round 10 of the Spec-5 World Tour. There's Otis Adams with a bit of left side action in the pit stop as he takes his service and then gets ready to get out of there. Ronnie Coates looks for all the world like he's going to get back into the race lead. And does about now. Which makes it Ronnie Coates leading the race from Camden Hibbett, Michael Coates and Andrew Gilliland. Orlando Harrell ahead of Alex Harrison at the moment in the open class, but needing one more stop will probably, with the long transit time here in the pit lane, see Alex Harrison go back ahead. And in fact, just the drive-through time of the pit lane looks to be almost 40 seconds. Which is certainly up there. There are some other circuits where the drive-through time is sort of 17 seconds, 18 seconds, 20 seconds, and then famously one of the longest pit lanes is Circuit Spa-Francorchamps endurance layout, and its drive-through time is 60 seconds. So this being about 38 here at Misano is definitely on the high side, and a lot of that, it's a long pit lane where the garages is, and then there's a long exit too. So 3 pit buildings there. This is where Otis Adams has rejoined. It's now behind Ray Lombardi and Sean Hayes, whose long stop doesn't appear to have given him too many benefits in the back part of the race here. And Geordie Fike's last lap didn't match the leader's or his personal best. So he's not making gratuitous amounts of ground on the new tyres, though he is motoring away from Alex Harrison and has Orlando Harrell covered well and truly. Probably because Alex Harrison spun on the previous lap. Rui Coimbra is in for a second time and potentially to park it. He was stone last after the speeding on pit lane. He might be done. This is Carol Bondar ahead of Brian Sapelski. So it's all battles everywhere inside of your top 10, because a little bit further up the road, Ray Lombardi's side by side with Otis Adams, who's trying to get the spot back. Sean Hayes also barreling into the equation. Underneath 10 minutes left, Andrew Gilliland runs very wide in the final corner. Wide enough to get a slowdown? Question mark? Indeed it is. So that's going to cost Andrew Gilliland as a dive down the inside of turn 1 from Camden Hibbett. Now to try to hold around the outside of turn 2 to get the inside of 3. He's sure going to try, as they're still side by side for the race lead. Michael Coates is loving watching on with that. Trying to go around the outside. Ronnie Coates is ahead and chopping through into the race lead, trying to get traction as best as he can when you've got to stay tight out of that little right-hander to make sure that you're flat out through this left, carrying as much speed as possible onto the following straight. Has Andrew Gilliland been dropped for good, or can he still close up the gap to the top 3 after the slowdown penalty out of the final corner? previous time. He's just back there at the moment. From the afternoon and into the early evening, the track is beginning to cool off now. Down a couple of degrees, which is nice, except the sun getting close to the driver's eye line will be less nice. Orlando Herald's finished his second stop. These are all good to go to the end. Hibbett down the inside of Coates. Coates thinking about diving back down the inside of the next, and he does so. But doesn't get the same traction from the tight line off of the exit. It puts Camden Hibbett back to the inside, covering the line off into the final corner. And Gilliland is back. It doesn't take the drivers in front going side by side for too long, and you can close half a second around here, get back into the tow, and be right back into the fight. Coates down the inside of one, fully ahead by turn 2, doesn't come across to shut the door though. And then a little wide out of 3, so Hibbett gets to his inside before the next braking zone. Side by side for first and second, side by side for third and fourth. Only a few laps left to go. There's battling happening other places in the field too, but you could never look away from side by side for the race lead, where Hibbett's trying to go around the outside of Ronnie Coates. Looks to have picked up a bit of a side draft. Has Coates. He leads through the corner, straightens off on the exit. Good drive, but then has to cover the inside through the next sequence of corners. Michael Coates ahead of Andrew Gilliland. Doesn't have gigantic implications for Michael Coates potentially, but it does for Andrew Gilliland, as he needs big point scores between now and the end of the season. He's had a couple already. Now going over under, Camden Hibbett down the inside and up ahead of Ronnie Coates, locking him in as well. And suddenly Otis Adams and Ray Lombardi don't look that far away. We've had so much battling for the race lead. That continues between first and second, that they're sending out more invites to this lead battle lap by lap. And there'll still be 3 more to go, but third and fourth are together. Andrew Gilliland's around and just avoiding the wall. He got a little bit of Michael Coates. Now he drops a chunk of positions. Side by side for the race lead still, but Otis Adams, Michael Coates. Otis Adams gaining big time out of that. Now he's in third with the sights on the race lead. Tibbett still chops and changes around, looking for a way to battle Ronnie Coates. Andrew Gilliland's gotten going again in 7th place. So Adams, Lombardi, Sean Hayes have all picked up some spots because of that contact between third and fourth outright in the final corner. Here they go once again, a battle never ending. Gilliland, who looked a lock for the top 3 for a bit, but the leaders couldn't stop battling, and it means everyone else gets brought back into the fight. Stuff like this, side by side for the race lead. And third place, you love to see that. Third place is Otis Adams at the moment. Michael Coates in very close, has a bit of a slide. And it will be 2 more laps of Misano with a chance that anything could happen for the drivers on screen inside of your top 7. Hibbett leading has a bit of a slide as the continual abuse of the tyres begins to catch up with him just a little bit. Very much a point to the apex and a dive for Ronnie Coates. Camden Hibbett might not get the perfect drive off this left-hander here. Looked a little bit compromised as Ronnie Coates tried to go over-under. He had a slide, compromised himself, chops through a 1-car length gap between Camden Hibbett and Otis Adams to then look back around the outside. Looks a decent place to be for Ronnie Coates there, as he's now inside for the right-hander coming up. Lombardi and Hayes are going to buy into this as another corner 3-4 in a row that Ronnie Coates and Camden Hibbett try to race side by side. Coates comes out ahead. Camden Hibbett tries to drop in behind, chopping off Otis Adams, who runs out of places to go by the end of the straight and into the right-handers. Hibbett down the inside, and Adams trying not to make a low percentage dive, trying to square off for good drive there, and he does, and your top 3 are back within 3 car lengths in Misano, with Lombardi and Sean Hayes now right with them. Top 5, top 6 out of the final corner. Do we have a white flag? No. We're just going for one more. 2 minutes on the clock as they cross the start-finish line. Lap times in the 1:55 range. We'll send them around for just one more. Does everyone have enough fuel to do it flat out as well? Surely you burn more fuel going side by side than you would flowing more speed through the corners. We'll see if that becomes a problem for anyone. Camden Hibbett leading from Ronnie Coates and Otis Adams. Lombardi, Michael Coates, Sean Hayes, the next 3. How many corners now have Coates and Hibbett gone side by side for in this race? Feels like more than they haven't. And still, Otis Adams is there trying to stay with the leaders, but trying not to get lured into racing like how they've been racing. Save his tyres, save his fuel, stay with them, keep it tidy if he can. There's your top 7 on the back straight. Leader weaving on the penultimate lap before the flat out right hand kink then gives way for a not quite flat out right hand kink, gives way for a hairpin. Coates just feels the need to keep covering that inside through there, which costs time but keeps you track position. So it keeps Ronnie Coates in first, but it brings a lot of other drivers closer to first. Just 15 seconds on the clock as they negotiate the final corner. Camden Hibbett in second. This time will be the white flag to send them on one more lap of Misano. I didn't get a good look at Barney, but surely he was calling final lap because time expires now with Ronnie Coates leading. It's a top 6 at the moment, with Gilliland continuing to drop back, potentially with fuel problems. Otis Adams catches a curb wrong, has a really nasty slide. Ray Lombardi goes through into third. Michael Coates at full speed needs a little bit of the runoff, but there's no slowdown for him there as he also gets ahead of Otis Adams. And just a little tiny mistake with some of the Misano curbs drops Otis Adams away from a top 3 It leaves us with just 2 cars battling for the lead on the final lap. Ronnie Coates and Camden Hibbett, they've thrown so many little punches at each other all race long, but now someone needs a knockout blow on the final lap because only one can win. Championship leader Ronnie Coates out front onto the long, fast back straight that will give Camden Hibbett so much toe. It's Ronnie Coates to try to decide where he's going to put Camden Hibbett, and he will not offer up the inside line unless Hibbett takes a late dive with a switchback, and he does, diving down the inside there before the hairpin. There's so much grip around the outside, and Coates has explored it before, but Hibbett's all the way up front, gets out just a little bit wide. It comes down to the final corner then, and the drive off of it, and a dive to the inside, yes, gets chopped off from Ronnie Coates. Camden Hibbett comes out the final corner, heading towards the checkered flag. And it looks like Camden Hibbett wins at Misano from Ronnie Coates. Ray Lombardi up into third on the final lap there, dropping Sean Hayes and Otis Adams somewhat. Potentially some fuel questions for a few as Andrew Gilliland wins open class in 6th. Kirill Bondar finishes ahead of Brian Zabelski, 7th and 8th. Michael Coates still needs to take 9th because he's running out of fuel. That's how Bondar, that's how Zabelski got him, that's how Geordie Fike has gotten him, but I think Coates has just got to the checkered flag now. No, oh come on. Bro. Here comes Alex Harrison. Too late though. Michael Coates got across the line. And only just. Orlando Harrell is the last car left out on track as he had to go through the pit lane twice, and it is such a long pit lane here at Misano. 40 seconds from pit in to pit out on the speed limiter. And Rui Coimbra got penalised and then I think parked it. Well, Misano certainly gives plenty of opportunity to battle side by side, linked by a few straights long enough for drivers to slipstream up and close the gap. Plenty of opportunity to battle side by side, but also to try to cross over, try to switch back, search for where the traction is out of some of those slower corners. Camden Hibbett takes a win and a points haul ahead of championship leader Ronnie Coates, then Ray Lombardi and Sean Hayes. Otis Adams with a late mistake costing him a spot or two. Andrew Gilliland battled right up front in the field for most of the time for a slowdown penalty, and a few other little things set him back to 6th. Kirill Bondar and Brian Zabelski also snuck through with Geordie Fike on Michael Coates, who ran out of fuel on the final lap and dropped out of the top 5 back to 10th place. But just 7/10 of a second, he crept across the start-finish line before Alex Harrison could get there. And then Orlando Harrell ruining a little mistake, no doubt, that put him onto a 2-stop strategy and really, really penalised him therein. Rui Coimbra sped on pit lane, lost almost a minute, was running last, and then decided, if I'm not going to gain any more positions from last, why run in last? And that's how he finished 13th. Well, we can head to chat with our race winners. And Camden Hibbett will join us. Ciao, Camden.
That was a fun one. That was a lot of fun. I didn't expect that racing out of this track, I'm going to be honest. Yes, there's draft, but it surprised me, just to say the least.
Everyone throws around underrated this, overrated that, as if it means anything anymore. But underrated track?
Yeah, I it's not my favorite to drive on by myself, but it was a lot of fun to race on, for sure. I tend to like the American tracks more, but this is one of my favorite tracks from overseas. It was definitely is a little bit of a different feel, I think. It created some really good racing. It was a lot of fun tonight.
Always going to be challenging when your big brothers are Monza and Imola to stand out, but it's one of the newest Italian tracks on iRacing. And where did you sort of really find the challenge? Tire wear looked high. Looks like there's a lot of corners that have 2 or 3 lines.
Yeah, I definitely noticed the tire wear here, but it wasn't awful. I don't know who took tires on the stop, but I know me and Andrew didn't, just because the cold tires in this car make it really hard to keep pace. So we elected to not take tires, and it ended up working out for us. Yeah, we had to manage the tire wear a little bit, but it wasn't awful. My main struggle point was really sector 1. That whole 1, 2, 3 complex was really hard to get down. There was a bunch of different lines that you could take, a bunch of different ways that were fast. So it was really just about trying to figure out what was best in any given situation. I feel like you had to practice each line because in any certain situation, one line could have been better than the other. So that was definitely, I think, the most challenging part of the track. But no, lots of fun tonight. I'm looking forward to next week. I think, are we at Nürburgring next week? Maybe. If we are, that's gonna be a fun one.
Looks like that schedule says Mid-Ohio.
Is Mid Ohio next week? Oh yeah, Mid Ohio is next week. Yeah. So I hopefully I'll be able to make that one with it being my home track. But either way, it's gonna be a really fun race next week. Mid Ohio, Nürburgring, both pretty draft tracks, draft heavy tracks. It's gonna be a fun one.
And then we finish the season on Le Mans, so there might be a tiny bit of pack racing, maybe just a handful of slipstreaming there as well. You close up just a little bit on Ronnie Coates, but that man is nothing if not consistent and metronomic.
Yeah, I think I'm out of the points at this point with the amount of races I've had to miss this season. But with the times that I've been here, it's been awesome racing with Ronnie. I know Ronnie is super consistent, super clean. Love racing with him. I don't really know what happened in
Yeah,
turn
you guys
2
did have
when
a
we
bit of
got.
contact. Oh.
Yeah, I haven't looked at it yet. We'll have to talk about it after, and but I'm not too worried about it. It's just clean hard, good hard Miata racing. I haven't figured out really who is at fault there, if anybody, but yeah, we always have some fun racing, and wish I could make more of them, but the ones that I make are always a ton of fun, and hoping to finish out the season strong.
Look forward to seeing you for more Spec-5 World Tour Racing, Camden. Congrats.
Thank you, guys.
And so we can move from our Pro Class winner to Open Class winner Andrew Gilliland. You were with the top 3 when it was just the top 3, but it seems like the front pack couldn't stay ahead of the rest, and then just a little mistake proves costly when the whole front half of the field is so close.
Yeah, it was unfortunate. It was an awesome race being able to run up front with all the pro guys and, getting some real experience in the front pack. But coming out of the final corner, I kind of got on the curb and just slid. We got close enough to where we made contact, and I was lucky enough not to make contact with the wall and keep my race going. But, it was still a good 6th place finish, obviously getting that last second pass on Coates as he ran out of fuel heading into the final corner. But other than that, it was an awesome race. Lots of fun.
Now, the graphics don't quite yet have you as Open Class leader, but by most metrics, as we head towards the very pointy end of the championship, you've had some really solid point scores up front with the rest of the field.
Yeah, it's been a huge bag of points, obviously, so far in these past 2 or 3 weeks. Being able to finish up front and get these extra points has been great, helping me lunge forward in this open class championship.
Mid-Ohio, the Nürburgring, Nordschleife, and Le Mans to go. One of those tracks doesn't feel like the rest, but certainly 3 well-known and well-respected circuits to close out season 15 of the Spec-5 World Tour.
Yeah, it's awesome. I can't wait, obviously, next week for Mid-Ohio, my home track. Same with Camden, but I think the rest of these tracks are going to be monster tracks, and I think we're going to have great racing for these last 3 weeks.
Certainly something we can look forward to. So how do you approach the remaining races, knowing everyone here is a racer just looking for some good racing, but you're also in the tightest championship fight at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to continue what I've been doing, just, working on raw pace, practice sessions any chance I can get, and then while in the race, just being aggressive, getting moves that I can make, just taking anything that is given to me.
Awesome. Congratulations, open class winner, and 3 exciting races still to come.
Yeah, thank you guys.
There we have our winners from both classes. Camden Hibbett outright takes a great win. Andrew Gilliland pushes his championship lead a little further now, usurping Orlando Herald. Ronnie Coates, though, when he doesn't win, he finishes in the top 3, and he always finishes. And that's why he looks to be leading pro class by almost 100 points at the moment. He is Mr. Consistent. Made Camden Hibbett fight for it, though. Those two would have looked at each other more out the side window than out the front or out the mirrors from 45 minutes of Misano. Thank you so much for joining our HJBC coverage. We'll see you in a week's time for Mid-Ohio. Wherever you're watching, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any more fantastic iRacing action on HJBC, like round 11 of the Spec-5 World Tour. Same time next week from Mid-Ohio.